Another thing is Beatlemania was very, very popular. The Beatles were like gods. They were worshipped all over the world. Unbelievable. For those of you who are in America or Canada at the time, what to speak of Europe, you cannot imagine how powerful and how powerful these poor Britishers were. So he opens a little center, 22nd Avenue. Then, a year later, some of his disciples go to, you notice that? Some of his disciples go to San Francisco, and they invite Prabhupada to go to San Francisco. Now you notice in the picture, in the background, not the foreground, but the background, we'll see the picture, we'll see the three Jagannatha Bathings. Now, how Jagannatha manifested. There's a short version, a long version, but I'm going to have to do the short version. Basically, one day, one of Prabhupada's disciples came in and handed a little figurine that had written on the bottom, 3 inches tall, I don't know, made in India. Whatever they saw, the disciples, the devotees saw, made in India, they were always very curious to bring it to Prabhupada. So she brought it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada saw it and offered obeisance and said, "Thank you, you brought Lord Jagannatha." And that's how Lord Jagannatha appeared. And then he said, "Are there other figures?" And she said, "Yes, I think there are." So he said, "Let me go get them." She went and got them, and there was Baladev and Subhadra, the little 3-inch figures. Then Prabhupada asked her husband, Sundar, who was a bit of a carpenter, if he could carve large ones, which he did. So he carved large deities of Jagannatha, fashioned after these little 3-inch ones. And it became a tradition when Prabhupada, showed appreciation for the little 3-inch figures. Then the devotees, they all would go into the cost plus import store, and they were buying them up, and they were wearing them around their neck, like little pendants, and little pendants around their necks. So when Jaya Sundar, he was carving the deities, he carved not just the one set, but he carved several. And then when Prabhupada, when he returned back to New York, the devotees met him at the airport. They went to the luggage, picked up his luggage, and they were ready to walk out. Prabhupada said, no, there's something else. And then he pointed to the special luggage area, and he said, "There's 3 crates over there, you go get them." So they went over, and there were these big crates, and they were carrying these crates. They took them to the temple on 26th Avenue, and they started to open them, and they saw, Baba Brahmananda tells the story, and they saw these 3 figures, and they're thinking, "My goodness, what is this?" And they were thinking, being on the West Coast, you can relate to this. When you tell this in India, people can't relate to it. On the West Coast in Vancouver, you can relate to this. So the devotees are looking at it and say, "What is this?" It's like some kind of a totem pole. They're trying to figure out which one goes on the top, which goes in the middle, which goes. The Prabhupada saw them, he's trying to stack them up. He said, "No, that's Jagannatha. For your obeisances." Oh, they offer the obeisances. So one day, Prabhupada came into the temple. And, he comes into the temple and, there's Balaram, there's Subhadra, but where's Jagannatha? He's gone. And so he asked one of the devotees, he said, all the devotees, they go for Harinam every day in Golden Gate Park. And they took Jagannatha with them for the Harinam. Prabhupada, crazy hippies, So here we have a picture. Prabhupada immediately went to the park, and he sat down with Jagannatha, kind of like make sure to protect him, not that Jagannatha needs any protection, but you don't want anybody to come in an offense against the Lord. And then after that, then Srila Prabhupada said, actually the deity never goes out of the temple, except one time a year. And then he started to tell the pastime of how Lord Jagannatha appeared and about the Ratha-Yatra. And he said, you should have a Ratha-Yatra. And he saw some flatbed trucks. And he told me, he said, this would make a very good Ratha cart. So he even designed the first Ratha-Yatra cart. And Mukunda tells his pastime in his book, Miracle on 26th Avenue. Miracle on 2nd Avenue. And how he took the picture, he put it on the truck, they boarded the truck, and they built a canopy and put the deities exactly as Prabhupada suggested. This is a very good proposal. Make the Ratha-Yatra festival a very great success. This will be a great introduction in your city, and people will appreciate it. And if we can introduce successfully this Ratha-Yatra festival, not only in San Francisco, but also in New York, and also in Montreal, then it'll be a great success of my mission in this country. And this was in May of 1967. At that time, there were basically 3 temples. There was one in New York, when she first started. And then in 1967, some of the disciples of Prabhupada came to Montreal because of the World's Fair. They thought it would be a very right place to introduce Krishna consciousness. They rented a bowling alley, that was their temple. And then they had the center in San Francisco. So Prabhupada said, yes, introduce this Ratha-Yatra festival. So in July, July 7th, this poster showed up, announcing the Har Festival, which is really the translation. So, San Francisco, 1967, Summer of Love. ISKCON's first Ratha-Yatra. First Ratha-Yatra outside India. ISKCON's first festival. And there's the first Ratha-Yatra. Flatbed truck, all the youth following it, like the Pied Piper. This is the back. Lord Jagannatha looking at one side, Subhadra, and then Balaram. Another picture from that first Ratha-Yatra. (1968), similar poster showed up. Now look at this Ratha-Yatra card. This is the second Ratha-Yatra in ISKCON. And that's the Ratha-Yatra card. Look at the way it's designed. Jayananda was very instrumental in establishing Ratha-Yatras. He worked very, very hard. And actually, one that doesn't get as much recognition is Nararayan. He also was very instrumental. In fact, he's the one that designed the canopy to go up and down. You go under a wire, the canopy comes down. And he fashioned the first Ratha-Yatra card to actually look like a Ratha-Yatra card. As expressed by you, our Ratha-Yatra festival in San Francisco must be continued every year with increased gorgeousness. I hope Krishna will bless you. And this is a letter 1969 from Honorable Peace. Then, in 1967, on the cover of Back to Godhead 69, on the cover of Back to Godhead magazine, this picture showed up. An actual, replica of the Ratha-Yatra card. And that's Ratha-Yatra in San Francisco as it looks pretty much today. Regarding your festival of Ratha-Yatra, you have got my blessings. Either with or without my presence, you will be successful, so do not worry. This is a letter, August 75, to Nityananda. This is the first Ratha-Yatra in London, 1969. Devotees went to London from Montreal, and they didn't have much money. There were 3 couples that went over, Mukunda, and I can't remember her name. Anyway, Mukunda, his wife, Guru Das, and Jamuna, and Shamsundar, and Malati, Janaki, Mukunda, Janaki. There's 3 couples. And they didn't even have enough money really to travel to get into the country. So what they did, in order to get into the country, Prabhupada wanted them to go to London. So one couple went, they would pool their money together, one couple would went, show how much money they got, then they would wire it back to the next couple. They would come, show the money, and then wire it back to the next couple. They didn't even know where they were actually even going to stay. But because of their devotion and their sincere desire to serve Prabhupada, everything just worked out. So just basically a half a dozen devotees, and they made a few devotees at that time also. One of the ones that came a little later was Giriraj, who's now Giriraj Swami. And they put on this Ratha-Yatra. They built this huge cart, just half a dozen devotees. Unbelievable, the potency and the enthusiasm they had. And then this is the first Ratha-Yatra cart. London's first Ratha-Yatra, 1969. Now, they're all excited. They're going to take the cart. They're going to go to Trafalgar Square, and they go about 50 meters down the road, pulling the cart, and all of a sudden, it's like the Nishingadev just came out of the pillar, this loud boom sound. And they looked, and the cart road. 50 meters down the road. They didn't even hardly get anywhere. It was a big cart. It wasn't built with very, much engineering, and the weight of the cart was too strong for the suspension, so the cart broke. The devotees were absolutely devastated. They were thinking, my God, what have we done? Lord Jagannatha doesn't like us. They reported back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was also initially a little upset, but then he said, then when he heard the reports, because after the Ratha-Yatra, they went to Trafalgar and they had a program. They spoke, they had some kirtan. And Prabhupada said, never mind. He said, next year you can have 3 carts, and the Indian community will help you because of the exposure that now you're having Ratha-Yatra. And sure enough, the next year they did. And then in 1973, Prabhupada put this right on the pages of his Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lagos for the next 10,000 years. In the year 1973, there was a gorgeous Ratha-Yatra festival in London, England, and the car was brought to Trafalgar Square. The London daily newspaper, The Guardian, published a front-page photo caption, "ISKCON Ratha-Yatra is rival to Nelson's column in Trafalgar Square." The Nelson column is a very impressive statue of Lord Nelson and can be seen from a good distance. Just as the residents of Puri compared the Ratha-Yatra car to Mount Sumeru, the residents of London considered the car a rival to the Nelson monument. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when they describe the Ratha-Yatra, they describe it as being, comparing it to Mount Meru, which is, not on this planet, but is considerably bigger than even the Himalayas. And there's a picture in the caption of the Ratha-Yatra 1973. This is a more recent picture of Ratha-Yatra in London. In the authoritative transcendental literature, which we have published as Nectar of Devotion, it is stated, and this is very important, it is stated that one can be liberated from all material suffering simply by seeing the Ratha-Yatra car passing. How important is Ratha-Yatra? Just to see the car passing, one will be liberated from all material suffering. 1977. New York's first 76, New York's first Ratha-Yatra down 5th Avenue. When Ratha-Yatra went down 5th Avenue, Prabhupada considered New York the most important city in the world, and they considered 5th Avenue to be the most important street in New York. So the most important street in the world. And when he heard that the Ratha-Yatra went down 5th Avenue, he was absolutely, elated. He was so pleased. The same when this article in 73 came out in London, he was also very, very, very pleased. This is a more recent picture of Ratha-Yatra on New York's 5th Avenue. This book distribution and Ratha-Yatra festival should go on all over the world. I want to introduce this Ratha-Yatra festival program all over the world. And that was a letter to Madhavis in 1973. When I was 6 years old, my father gave me a wrap, and I was performing this Ratha-Yatra in my neighborhood. And now, in the Western world, you are worshiping it. You're worshiping Lord Jagannatha so gorgeously, and it pleases me very, very much. A letter to Ravinder Swarup, 1974. Melbourne, 1979 is a picture. Actually, in 1973 or 74, I'm not sure exactly when, Prabhupada went to Melbourne for their Ratha-Yatra. And the newspapers, they didn't actually have very much appreciation for the Hare Krishnas because they were being startled by the Hare Krishnas chanting and, just seemed, some unusual cult. But when the leader came, the devotees announced that. And, being Krishna's representative, no vehicle is good enough. So they arranged for him to come in a Rolls Royce. And the newspapers, they had a field day with that. Swami shows up in a Rolls Royce with a lot of negative press. But on the morning, or the evening before, the day before the Ratha-Yatra, when they were setting up the Ratha-Yatra cart, there was a big fire in a 5-story building, just where they were setting up. And people were stranded on the 3rd or 4th floor. And there was actually, the desperate situation. They were going to actually burn to death in the fire. And the devotees, they took the canopy from the cart, and they ran over, and then people were jumping into the canopy of the cart. And of course, the news picked up on that, and it completely turned everything around. Hare Krishnas, they saved the people. And then the article, they took their religious rug, they called it a religious rug, and saved people with their religious rug. Srila Jagannatha. This is a more recent picture of Ratha-Yatra in Melbourne. This Ratha-Yatra is one of the activities of Krishna. Therefore, to take part in the Ratha-Yatra festival means to associate with Krishna directly. And this was an address in London in 1972. Okay, we're going to go around the world now. Anyone want to? This is where you can kind of guess where the places are. Maybe you know. Just call out. Just call out. Yes, just call out.
Vancouver.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, Los Angeles. It's got palm trees. Where Vancouver has palm trees too. This is a giveaway. Anyone? Yeah, Washington, D.C. It's a recent one. This is one from the 80s. This was from back in 1990. Look at those cars. This is Seattle. They use the PowerPoint. This one you wouldn't know. This is Chicago. Of course, it's considerably bigger now. Mexico City. 1992. Berlin. What happened in Berlin in 1992?
The Berlin Wall.
Yeah. You see that? Yes, the Berlin Wall got taken down. The Berlin Wall, what do they call it? The Iron Curtain went down, and Lord Jagannatha's canopy went up simultaneously. Same year. Moscow, Red Square, going to Red Square, 1999. Anyone want to guess where this might be? We've already mentioned this place.
London.
Yeah, London. Umbrellas, right? Because this year they had a very nice Ratha-Yatra. Weather was fine. This is Sydney. And I only have a small, a few grains to show you testing the batch. Durban, South Africa. Mumbai. Anyone? Have you been there? It's in India. Delhi, yes. They add some things to the parade. This is an older picture. It's considerably bigger now, but I really like it because of, the cart. They use like in 1967, they use a pickup truck. But they pull it instead of driving it. Okay. You notice this is an interesting one. This is a small one from Bristol. And you notice it looks like Jagannatha is saluting, but actually what it is Jagannatha is on Garuda. Krishna flies on Garuda. And just as in our Ratha-Yatras, we have the tall canopy, and when you go under something that's lower than the canopy, they lower the column. Well, here they go through tunnels, and the wings are too wide, so they have to bring the wings up. So it looks like he's saluting. This is in Croatia. Croatia more recently. This you should be able to get this one. Amsterdam, yes. Copenhagen. Prague. Poland. Taipei, Taiwan. Sri Lanka. Oh, this is a very unique one. I love this one. It's in the middle of winter, so their car, even though it looks like they have wheels, it's actually a sleigh. I love the way Jagannatha is dressed. It looks like Russian Cossacks. And sure enough, it's in Russia. You gotta love the Russian devotees for their enthusiasm. In fact, in Moscow, there's 6,000 devotees in Moscow. They have 600 non-hot programs. Yes, and I love the car. Look at how artistic and clever design is. Germany. South America, Sao Paulo. Oh, this one you might get. This is a very...
Milan.
Milan, yes. You're from Milan?
I'm from Italy.
Italy, yeah. Yeah. I know a little Italian. Spaghetti.
Yeah, sì, parlo italiano.
Vermicelli.
From?
You notice all my Italian is pasta. This is the
Io
good one. Yeah, really, where the Olympics are this year. This is the first time the Olympics are in South America, but it's not the first time Ratha-Yatra has been in South America. Ludhiana, India. Belfast, Fighting Irish. Mangalore, Karnataka, South India. Argentina, South America again. This looks like a pretty big one. Poland. Jujuma Swami has something to do with this one. This is Singapore. I thought this was very clever. They have their festival, as you notice, they have the festival on a track going around the football field. And they set up the festival on the football field. So now we're in Canada.
Montreal.
The French devotees. What do you have? Anyone want to guess? Toronto. That's in Toronto.
Oh, that's
This is a small one. First Winnipeg's first Ratha-Yatra. Winnipeg now. This is Calgary. We were actually just in Calgary this year. They have very nice Ratha-Yatra. Their youth did a fantastic drama about the history of Prabhupada that was related to general public. They go right down the mall, let people walk. There's a lot of people right there where they have the Ratha-Yatra. Very, very nice Ratha-Yatra. Calgary again. This is Edmonton's first Ratha-Yatra. Notice the tiny little car. This is more recent Edmonton Ratha-Yatra. You notice we're going from east to west, right? Now we're in Charlotte. It's a child's rat cart. It's actually very cool. Remind you of anything? The Prabhupada's first Ratha-Yatra? Those little devotees. Who knows what special devotees they are? They're younger than when Prabhupada had his first Ratha-Yatra. They look like 2 to 3 years of age. Some ideas. Okay. Bigger parade. I've heard that you are very keen to make the Melbourne Ratha-Yatra very wonderful, and you have requested extra instructions. One thing is there are many band parties. You can get band parties to join. That would be nice. Our men should hold kirtan just in front of the Rath, and other parties may proceed before us. And that was to Madhubees in 1974. Vancouver Ratha-Yatra. Suddenly, the stirring sounds of bagpipes fill the air. On Prabhupada's advice, Madhubees had hired a Scottish marching band to lead the parade. The Mitcham pipe band, fully bedecked with their pipes, hard forage caps, full kilts, sportons, and large socks set off along the road. Scottish band, Prabhupada, Madhubees announced. Srila Prabhupada nodded, showing his approval with a broad smile. This is Burma's book, The Great Transcendental Adventures in Biography. Another pipe band, but it's not, obviously not Australian. For the present, you endeavor to make the Ratha-Yatra Festival grand successful. Can we have a little quiet? It is amazing. You should arrange the procession and procedure so nicely that all the neighboring people may be attracted to join the procession. And here are the neighboring people for this particular Ratha-Yatra. This is Durban, South Africa. So naturally you have the neighboring people. This is Vancouver. People waiting along the road to watch the Ratha-Yatra. A full year, this is indigenous song, a full year of preparations paid off in our best Ratha-Yatra festival in 25 years. The celebrations kicked off with a super chariot parade with amazing kirtans, brass bands, majorettes, Scottish pipes, bagpipes, clowns, still walkers, and Zulu warrior dancers. The holy names resounded throughout the beach area, and people of all ethnic groups enjoyed the fun. The hearts of the Vaishnavas were completely satisfied. Srila Prabhupada, we are your servants, doing your will. We offer our most respectful obeisances to Jaya Govinda dasa, who helped pioneer Ratha-Yatra in the West. This is the same South African Ratha-Yatra. Still walkers, dragons. When His Divine Grace heard the description of Ratha-Yatra preparations with 2 dancing elephants, a brass band, and marching horses, he laughed very much and said, "Very, very good." And this was Prabhupada's secretary at the time, too, Vishwakarma in Toronto, 1977. It's interesting to note that there has appeared, I wasn't able to get a copy to put into the PowerPoint, but Bhakti Siddhanta, when he was having a festival, this is coming from 2 sources. First, I heard it, most recently, I just heard it from Tiksha Gurunta, who was just recently here to the Color Festival, Prabhupada decided. And I heard it previously. And apparently it's in the newer edition of the Bhakti Siddhanta biography, which is 3 volumes. And apparently when he was having a festival, he wanted everything in the festival. He had jugglers, he had magicians, he had all kinds of things to attract people to come to the festival. And of course, Bhakti Siddhanta is very, very conservative. But in order to attract the masses, he incorporated these things. This is Yonge Street, the world's longest street. This is Toronto. This is from 1986. This Toronto World Review. This is Vancouver. We admire this horse chariot in Vancouver. Here's a statement of observations. More than 500 people followed the procession to the beach. And there were about 24 cars. They distributed thousands of chapatis. And at last, Sri Jagannath Subhadra and Baladev finally came here in our house and will stay here for 1 week and then return. So Prabhupada, his health was not so good, so they rented a house for him on the beach away from San Francisco. So he wasn't able to attend that first Ratha-Yatra. But he reported. And when the devotees reported to Prabhupada, he reported to Prabhupada that, when they were going in the raft, the truck that the deity was on was going up a hill. And as it was going up the hill, all of a sudden the engine stalled and started to roll backwards. And all the devotees, quickly got out of the way, and then it started to go up again, and then the same thing happened. It stalled and fell backwards. And when they said that to Prabhupada, he said, "Yes, this is Lord Jagannath's Leela, his pastime. Lord Jagannath is definitely come to the West." So, Prabhupada with 500 cars, he reported 500 cars followed. It may have just been the regular traffic. I don't know if actually 500 cars, but Prabhupada incorporated that because he saw this is a very important thing. Just cars following the parade, it's part of the parade. Whatever is part of the parade, very pleased. Anyway, this is again Ratha-Yatra in Vancouver. This car was known as Henry. It's a little BMW, actually. They're smart car from the 50s.